Hey guys, you might have seen recently that Final Fantasy XIV's competitor World of Warcraft is adding housing to the game. This is coming in a later expansion down the road, but they put out an initial teaser for it, and I thought it was pretty relevant to the conversation about Final Fantasy XIV's housing. So I'm going to pause the video right here. This video was actually finished before I knew about Final Fantasy XIV Mobile. If you haven't seen, they just announced that Final Fantasy XIV Mobile is coming out, and it's going to be made by Tencent or Lightspeed Studios in conjunction with Final Fantasy XIV dev team overlooking it, and Yoshida himself. But it's like a quote-unquote faithful recreation of Final Fantasy XIV on mobile. It's probably going to be free to play. They haven't really said any monetization yet, but one big thing that's very, very relevant on the page that they kind of describe what's going to be in it is it says, customize your cozy home. That awfully implies that that's going to be instance housing or just everyone gets a house. That wasn't known about when I made this, so I do want to say that this is kind of relevant and keep that in mind with everything that's going forward. I will say real quick that I am shocked they're doing this, and maybe you can hear that in the expression of my voice, but I just want to say, like, I hope that actually forces modern day 14 or the actual real game to add instance housing. So to take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt, because I didn't know about this. And still, if they don't give instance housing after this probably is going to get it, that's really screwed up. I'm sorry, but let's get back to the actual video. Well, right now, Guild Wars 2 actually has some really good instance housing, and I know that Final Fantasy XIV's housing has always been up for debate, whether it should be instance or the way that it is currently, or that they should just add additionally instance housing. 14 has announced and talked about that they were going to potentially offer upgrades in one of the recent live letters to housing that exists. We haven't gotten hard confirmation if this is happening also to apartments, so we could eventually get housing like available to kind of all for any size, very similarly to other MMOs out on the market. But in the case of Final Fantasy XIV, I think it's still lacking regardless of that. I think SE should really keep that in mind, considering that Blizzard tends to take, if you're a competitor MMO, they will take your features and they will make them better, or they will do better than yours, or they will try and basically give a competitive offer that is vastly superior. I know a lot of 14 players don't really look at World of Warcraft as a competitor because they don't care about the art style, they don't care about the lore, they don't care about the community. But from a Square Enix standpoint, I think they should be honestly concerned about this, because it feels like anytime I've seen WoW recently, they have stepped up on every feature that Final Fantasy XIV has in a way to make it more competitive in the market. And this is a good thing for players, I think, because it can put pressure on SC to do better, but it also could just be a case of similar to back in 1.0. I think SC sometimes gets full of themselves and kind of ignores the rest of the market. Maybe that won't happen and SC will pay attention this time, but one of the biggest features for the longest time that I did feel that World of Warcraft was not supplying their community was housing. I know I've always heard from people that played WoW, and even when I played WoW, that housing was something that they wanted, and it just never happened. But now they're finally getting it, and it also seems like they've just tried to match 14 in every single way. And obviously COVID was probably a source of that when they had that massive downfall in population for a bit. One, because of Shadowlands, but also because there was other factors with the Blizzard lawsuits and whatnot with the state of California. Now, I'm not going to really get into that, but we did see a massive surge in Final Fantasy XIV's population and made it probably even bigger of a competitor than it was before because of this. And I think in reaction to this, Blizzard's kind of tried to match everything that Final Fantasy XIV has. That means a better storyline and housing for their own game. And they really tend to be good at improving and iterating on features that the competitor has and kind of making it their own. Given the rest of the videos I've shared with you guys, 14 just hasn't been that innovative lately to really match their biggest competitors in the marketplace. When the value of a sub comes up, I often cite World of Warcraft because I think they're offering their players great value. WoW's sub includes retail, classic era, and season of discovery. That's basically 4 versions of WoW to satisfy their player base. Honestly, I really think SE needs to do something with Final Fantasy XI to match World of Warcraft with a joint sub, and I'm really shocked that they haven't, considering the alliance raid is Echoes of Vana'diel. It's like kind of the perfect moment to do it. But SE's kind of just doing their own thing, and some players, they don't mind that, and they think SE can do that and get away with it, but I think long-term complacency like this is going to hurt them, and it's only going to cause population loss, which sucks for us because that'll mean less money going to the game. But really, I hope I'm wrong and they keep in mind what's going on in the rest of the MMO market. Some features that may come to World of Warcraft, or what I expect out of it when it comes to their housing, is I actually do not think they will offer housing where it's like open the way it is with 14s. Like, it will be instance is my expectation. I don't think it'll be a zone that you go into and you see a bunch of other people's houses. I don't think that makes sense really ultimately, because it doesn't scale really well, and that's a lot of the problem I think that happens with 14, and just not having enough space for people to have houses that you can see out in the open and share in like a neighborhood. And because I believe it'll be instance, I assume it won't require you to have a sub the same way Final Fantasy XIV forces you to for housing. I imagine the death grip that Final Fantasy XIV has on players is going to keep looking worse when it comes to housing because of this alone. It'll be a huge outlier in the marketplace, and I just don't think people will keep putting up with it. The other thing that I wanted to mention was Guild Wars 2 that I brought up earlier. They had updated their housing recently, and they made it so you could make a whole entire like field and a house on it, and you kind of create and change the whole entire area, and all of like the objects within in like the zone, you can move in the X, Y, and Z movement and rotate it and everything. And 14 doesn't do that. I know that there are plugins or there are third-party tools that have ways of getting around this, and people use them, and obviously there's glitches, but 14 really hasn't updated their system in a really long time. And I think that's going to hurt them in the end. And I really hope that they look at these other MMOs that are trying to make the housing features better and take that into consideration, because I feel like 14's falling flat in this area. While I think the Balmung and the housing that's available there and like the RP community that's going on, it clearly succeeds and it's a big draw to the game, and even the third-party tools are a big draw to the game. There's no doubt about that, to get around many of the issues that like 14 has. But I don't think from like a entry-level consumer standpoint that they're going to be able to get away with this for long. Obviously there is an aesthetic to 14 that a lot of people like, and there's a piece of 14's like story and locations and all of this that draw people in. But from a large gaming market, and if we want to see 14 succeed and continue on as long as it does, SE really needs to do something and innovate this area, besides all the other stuff I brought up related to like expansion issues. I do want to be clear that I don't think this should be a large priority for SE. It doesn't make sense to be. I put this honestly in the same category as like Island Sanctuary in a lot of ways, because we already have the housing system. But I do think that the impression people will get from afar, and even like internally, like some frustrations within the game and the player base, I think it'll continue to increase if it's not taken care of eventually. It can't be a situation where like you toss away and focus only on this for a particular expansion and to like fix the issues with it. It needs to be something that's like gradually worked on, and be like, hey, we know that we need to fix this and we're working on it. Like, it's on our list kind of thing. And players know that it's happening. That's mostly what I want to see. I know I've brought up a number of negative topics and kind of like pinpointed at like issues with the game currently, but I think it's important to bring up and discuss and get people's thoughts on it, because if we're not paying attention to what other games do, we can't, I feel like, ask SE to do better. And if other games aren't doing better, there's no pressure on Essie at all. So what do you guys think? Are you guys concerned about this? Do you guys think that the MMO space will get better when it comes to like player housing? I guess I hope it will. It sucks a long time ago that we lost WildStar, because I actually think that was one of the best housing experiences that I've ever seen. They literally made it so you can make a skate park in it, which was honestly pretty crazy. And before anyone says it, no, I am not expecting Final Fantasy XIV to follow suit with that. Also, I do want to keep sprinkling in these discussion type videos in between my other videos that I've been making, so I hope you guys have been enjoying and wouldn't mind dropping a like and a sub on the video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.